Hi there, welcome back to Switched to Linux. So today we're going to have a look at how you can test out some Linux distributions without having to install anything on your main computer. This is primarily important because you don't want to mess up your main computer as you're experimenting with Linux. And as you are looking at what you can do with Linux and what you can't do with Linux, it's important to keep your original basic computer up and running so that you don't get lost in what you can do with what. So the first method we're going to look at here real quick, and we'll have separate videos on how to actually do all this. This is just an introduction of the possible ways you can test out a Linux distribution. The first is running VirtualBox. So VirtualBox is a completely free program by Oracle that allows you to run an operating system within an operating system. So the computer that's right behind me here is actually running the Fedora Linux distribution, and I chose that for this particular computer because this is actually my Mac. So my Mac computer, I wanted to figure out how I can get a Linux distribution that runs very much like a Mac computer does. So inside of here, we have our VirtualBox, and I can create various machines, and you can run all sorts of different machines in here. And then what I've done is I've downloaded some Linux distributions here. I have 3 distributions here: Fedora, Elementary, and Ubuntu. And I can run these as a live CD key, or I can actually install the operating system in the VirtualBox. So in this case here, I've already explored these 3 different operating systems, and I decided to go with Fedora as the one that I would install. So this runs as a complete operating system. So inside of here, we have, here's all of your settings, here's everything. And I chose Fedora for this particular computer because you can set up a Fedora setup with the GNOME 3 desktop, which is what this is, to look like and behave very much like a Mac computer. And that's really what my goal was, is how you could set up Linux as a replacement for a Mac system. So that's what we've done there. The other thing that you can do is you can use what is called a live CD key. And what this is simply a USB hard drive that you have formatted to have an operating system and a bootloader on it. So almost every major computer nowadays can load off of a USB stick. So what you do is you download a program called UNetboot, and you can, I'll have the videos about how to do all that, but you download the program, download the Linux distribution that you would like, you plug in your CD key on your main operating system, and then the program will write the Linux distribution onto your CD key so that you can take this now, turn off your computer, you can put this into your computer, and you can boot your computer off of this stick. Now this has the advantage above the virtual machine because the virtual machine will operate a little bit slower because it is utilizing and sharing the resources between your running operating system and your test operating system. The advantage of the CD key is it's going to load the Linux inside of your computer without competing with the other operating systems. So you get a better idea of how the computer works. Obviously, the downside is you need a separate CD key for each different Linux install that you want to play with. So it's a little bit more cumbersome to work with a CD key as opposed to a virtual machine. So those are some of the ways you can do it without installing anything. Now there's some other neat things that make Linux really good, and that's the portability. So you should be doing your banking on a different operating system than you do your internet browsing and all of your other work. I hope you realize that. With Linux, this is very awesome and powerful to do because this is my banking computer. It is and I just dropped it. It is simply I think there's a 16 gigabyte thumb drive that is extremely small. This has an operating system called Ubuntu, which is like a light version of Ubuntu installed on it. And I can put this into any computer in my office. This is doubly encrypted. So if I happen to lose this disk, no big deal. There's 2 different encryption passwords to get into this drive. So I have to plug this in, get through the first layer of encryption, and then log in with my second layer of encryption. And so this guy here is a very good, very secure thing. If you have big lists of passwords you have laying around, but you don't want people to find them, just basic security stuff, great way to do it. On this is all those passwords. Someone steals this or it gets lost, chances are they're not going to crack it. If they are, they're probably going to crack my other accounts before that anyway. But that's another great thing about Linux. And the last way I want to talk about is how you can run an entire operating system without compromising your current operating system, even if you only have one computer. So you can buy these external hard drives. This one is from Toshiba. I have another one down here from Western Digital. This is our 1 terabyte external USB 3 hard drives. They cost about $50. You can run an entire Linux operating system. In fact, this is my Ubuntu computer that runs a lot of my media stuff. It runs an internal web server. A lot of other functions that I have inside of my office all run on this. Is a full-blown Ubuntu operating system. It's as modern as they come. It's as standard as they come. It's the latest version of it, 1604. I can plug this into any computer in my office, and this is a great thing about the portability of Linux. On a Windows computer, obviously Mac, same thing. Mac just runs on the Mac. Of course, you can build the Hackintosh, but on a Windows computer, you can you install it and you have to set up all these drivers and all these things. And if there were a way to take that hard disk out and move it to another computer, it wouldn't work because of the drivers, the way the drivers are set up. With Linux, all of the drivers that you need are in the kernel, and it will only load the things into memory that it detects on the system boot. So I can take this thing and I can plug it into any one of the other computers in my office, and it will run the Ubuntu operating system just fine. That is an advantage of the portability of Linux. So with that, if you only had one computer, but you really want to try out Linux, this is your way to go. You first start with the virtual machine. You download several different distributions to play with them a little bit, see which one you like. And then you might load them onto a CD key, which actually you would need this to run it onto your hard drive anyway. So you run this onto a CD key, play with it a little bit more. If that's the system that you like, you get one of these guys for $50. You plug this into your computer, you plug this into your computer, and you install the Linux operating system onto this drive. And now anytime you want to load up your Linux computer, you plug this in, you turn on your computer, and then now you can boot into Linux. So we're going to talk about, in other videos on this channel, we're going to talk about the details of setting up a virtual machine, the details of setting up a USB key, the details of running up one of these external hard drives as an operating system, and even more. So come back, stay tuned in, check out switchtolinux.com or our YouTube channel, which is obviously you found it if you're on the video. So let us know if there's any other questions, specific questions that you have. I'm glad to attempt to address as many of those as I can. And until then, I hope that you have a great time switching to Linux.